Ron Paul now coming out, voicing his opinions and lashing out at the Obama administration, placing at least part of this blame on the United States, saying that this would have never happened if it was not for the Obama administration's actions. He also goes on to state that right out of the gate, the administration jumped the gun. Now, this is one of the reasons that I knew immediately that this was a setup. I mean, within hours of this thing going down, they were already pointing the finger. They had no proof. They had no evidence. And they just literally jumped the gun way too quick. And he says the same thing. Now, he took to his website over the weekend, lashing out at the Obama administration and the mainstream media for jumping the gun and pointing the finger at these Russian separatists, saying that they grounded the flight. Now, he says that it's not wise at this point to be blaming anyone when we don't have the proof that we need. He also says that it's a shame that we cannot get a real investigation, that it would be real hard, and it's probably never going to happen. That's why I do the work that I do, to try to get the best information that we can get our hands on out here and put it all together, because they're obviously going to keep lying to our faces. Now, this is what he continues to state. It's rather interesting. He says that they come out saying it had to be Russia, it had to be Putin, and that the media outlets were already well prepared with their stories on launching this attack toward Russia. Now, they go on to state that the U.S. had sponsored this whole regime change. You see? He states that the mainstream media will not report that the crisis in the Ukraine started late last year, when the EU and the U.S. supported protesters and the Nazi-made-on soldiers on the ground plotted an overthrow of the elected Ukrainian president, and they ran him out of the country into Russia. The United States did this, guys. Then they took all the gold, and since then they've took over a large swath of the country, and the people that are left fighting for their lives are in eastern Ukraine, and it's just that. They're fighting for their lives. It's genocide. And this is a huge coup that has took place here. And it only took place because the United States funded it. You don't believe me? Ron Paul is sitting here spilling the beans on it. So, he goes on to argue some of the same things that I've stated, that Russia or the separatists in Ukraine had nothing to gain from shooting down this plane full of civilians. Absolutely nothing. This is where common sense plays a big factor, and discernment. Now, Paul went on to compare the situation to the Obama administration's claim against the Assad government that they had used chemical weapons. Well, guess what? For everyone that may have missed it, we've now got proof that those claims were false. It was a fabricated lie. And he's stating this. So, who would gain from this? He says the Ukrainian government has much to gain by pinning this attack on Russia. So, I figured I would share his viewpoints here on the situation and let it be known that they can continue to lie straight to our faces. It's what they do anyway, but there's guys out here that are speaking the truth. You just got to listen up. Or most of these guys and politicians all paid off, yes, but to save face and to keep their own name out there, they're going to have to step up, and they got to speak truth at points. And that's how the deception is waged. You take 90% truth, and it's that little bit of lie that's mixed in with it that'll get you. But in this case, I think we all know the United States seems to be pretty much out of options here, and it looks like Kiev has been busted already. We know who did this. We have more evidence on the downing of this flight that the Ukraine did this, Kiev did this, than most false flag events we've ever witnessed. We have more proof. The fact that they created that video the day before was huge itself. And now we're just going to wait and see what kind of images the United States decides to release. Russia's done so. Let's see what the U.S. has. Because I'm telling you, the only reason they're hesitating is because they know Once they release them, they're going to get picked apart. And they cannot afford to get caught slipping here. The Ukraine was one thing, but the United States, well, what happens if we were to find proof that they were plotting this too? It'd be big, huh? You ask Russia who did it. They said the CIA. Ron Paul surely doesn't seem to think that Russia or any of the separatists had anything to gain from this. He said the Ukraine did. Of course, he's not going to never once mention that we did it. But he left it right out there for you to see. He at least did that. I'll leave a link. As I get more info, I'll keep you guys posted. But, you know, you got to pay attention when people are coming out making statements here. Especially directly objecting statements coming out of Barack Obama's mouth. This has been Dabu 7. Eyes open.